enjoy the present moment, then your future you will have a beautiful past. Things I will say in this video are coming from my heart. It might be a little bit of tough love here and there. I think I need to hear that for myself as well, so don't take it personally. I hope you can take away some inspiration or maybe just a nudge to take responsibility and do some things that you've always wanted to do. Let's go. Countless times I've heard the phrase, just stay present, but I always had a struggle to understand what it actually meant for me. And I think being present just means being mindful in your day-to-day things. It's not when we achieve the big things that matter, but it's like, how did I get there? Was I enjoying the process, or were I just rushing, putting myself under pressure because I needed to achieve this big goal? And should stop waiting for this beautiful, grand future that we're imagining sometimes and make an effort to be mindful and work on it right now. Because the truth is, we don't know how many days we have available, how many years we're going to be on this earth. And I'm not saying this to scare anybody, but it's just a reality check where putting off things in the future for so long and sometimes may not ever come. And we just need to make an effort of enjoying our day to day, like the mundane things. 2 years ago, today was the future for you. And the only moment that we have to live is right now. So why not create a beautiful life for you in this moment? Which brings me to the next point. Stop waiting until you're ready. Stop making excuses. We often get so caught up, as I said, in this future scenario where when we think if we have this resource, if we have this much money, if we are moving out of this apartment, if we finish school, then we can make the change. But the truth is, that's all excuses. And I can tell you from my own experience, I've been there and I've done it a lot, and I'm working towards bettering this because at the end it doesn't bring you anything. You're just gonna get stuck where you are right now. And we're telling ourselves that in order to make significant change, it needs to be big. First of all, progress over perfection, right? But progress is also tiny steps over a long period of time is what gives you the progress that you want to see. Even if you don't have what you think you need right now in order to do the thing you want to do, find something really small that you can do literally right now. Even if you're just sitting down, opening your laptop and Googling something, that is a first step towards something. Stop making excuses, because 2 years from now, you would have been so proud of your past self for taking the steps, making tiny progress, just moving forward. Tiny steps over a long period of time gives us the progress we want to see. It's not the big things that we do one time, small habits really. And I can give you an example out of my life. So for the longest time, I wanted to make the move to the US. There I was in Germany being like super frustrated that nothing was working, but I also didn't take any action, not applying for any other jobs, not researching if there were any other ways, because there are, even though they might be tricky. I just read up on things online that made it sound even more impossible, and I was like, there you have the evidence, it's not working out. I applied for the green card lottery. That didn't work out either. My biggest lie and biggest excuse was the money part. I was like, I don't have the resource, I don't have the time to have an extra job on the side, and it's just too much work, and I will never be able to save up this much money in order to be able to live for 3 to 6 months without working. I held on for this excuse for way too long. But eventually I was like, okay, you can either come up with more and more excuses, but that just means you're going to stay exactly where you are and you're miserable where you are right now. I was like, okay, let me just look into different mini jobs. I found a mini job working as an usher in the opera house in Munich, and that's what I did on top of my full-time job as being a teacher. And was it a lot? Yes, it was. So some days I really worked my 8.5 hours straight and went back to my apartment, got changed, and then worked another 4 or 5 hours there. And while that was very exhausting, I just kept telling myself, if I can just earn 1% more and put this aside, it will be better than doing nothing at all. And eventually it worked out, but it was a tiny step. I could have probably done it way sooner, but I think I just needed to realize that I'm making excuses for myself. So if you're in a similar situation, or if you want to do something and you just don't think you have the resources right now, start really, really small and go from there. 1% better is better than nothing. It's gonna accumulate and it's going to be better from where you started from. Stop waiting not to feel fear anymore. I don't know if there will be a time when we will really not be anxious or fearful of situations anymore. There is this saying that everything you want is on the other side of fear, and I think that holds a lot of truth. If you ever were so scared of doing something that you knew was going to benefit you, but for some reason this anxiety and fear is just so big and it feels unbearable and impossible to do it. But then you kind of take the plunge and decide to do it anyway. And how amazing does that feel afterwards? To tell yourself, oh my God, I did it even though I was so scared. A lot of the times when I feel anxiety, when I feel fear, the fear and anxiety feel so much bigger before I do the actual task. While I'm doing it, yes, I might be still nervous and there might be little hiccups and you're like, oh God, is this really going to work out? But it's never as big as right before when you overthink every possible scenarios of how that could go wrong. Let me know in the comments if you experience the same. And the feeling of accomplishing something that you were really scared of makes you so proud and really boosts your confidence. And I think that's why it's so important to do things that scare us sometimes, to take risks, to try new things, even if it feels scary. I think a common misconception is that in order to take risks, we have to have trust within ourselves. I think it is actually the other way around, where you would have to take risks first before you build the self-trust. Because fear has a very important purpose, right? To keep us safe. Sometimes we have to look through the lens of, is this fear reasonable, or is this fear just there because we don't take action and it just gets bigger and bigger? Get curious about your fear, why it's showing up. If it's showing up before job interviews or big things that you were looking to do, maybe you can flip the script. Instead of calling it fear, call it excitement. It doesn't sound as bad as having fear because you're excited. You have something that you're looking forward to because it comes with a possible good outcome. You apply for a job and you might get it, and you might get a pay raise or something. If we were like, oh, I'm afraid, I am scared, that always puts it in a negative bubble. And let's see if we can put it in the positive bubble. The bubble of excitement. Good things come from excitement. Don't wait any longer to love yourself. As you are right now, you are good enough. There is not, I have to lose this amount of weight to feel better. I have to gain this amount of weight to feel better. I have to dye my hair purple to love myself. You just have to start loving yourself. And it's so much easier said than done. I know this. We're all imperfectly perfect as we are. We all have flaws, we have mistakes, we have quirks, and that is good. I say this in a lot of my videos, but it's so important. If you have trouble loving yourself or accepting yourself, look through the lens of your best friend. Your friend might have insecurities too, and you still love them. They might tell you things that they don't love about their body or you love them anyway, right? It doesn't matter if they're too tall or too small, if they're too big or too skinny. You just love them because they're your friend and they have qualities that you admire in them, and you would uplift them if they would not feel their best and putting themselves down, having negative self-talk. Do the same thing for yourself, and if it feels weird, it's a good thing. We're gonna start from the beginning and maybe just look at yourself in the mirror and find one thing you really love about yourself. And it doesn't have to be a physical appearance. It can be that you are really empathetic with other people, that you always see the good in other people, that you have so much joy, so much light to give to other people. Find one thing, maybe write it down so you can look back at it if you have a bad day. I wish somebody would have told me sooner that you don't have to look a certain way, that you don't have to fit in, you don't have to be perfect and all have to have it together. Be kind to yourself, be kind to your mind as well. Negative self-talk is not helping. I'm going to say it again. As you are right now, you're imperfectly perfect. You are good enough and you are worthy enough as is. Stop waiting any longer that your past will change. We know it doesn't, and it also doesn't affect your past if you keep thinking about the same old scenarios in your head. If you had bad situations in your past, if you had breakups, if you got hurt, if you have traumas, they are all valid. And just because you're moving on from your past doesn't make it okay if other people treated you bad. It doesn't make their action okay. In your head, you're reliving in this past memories, and this is hindering you from moving on. The past is always going to be in the past. I have definitely been there where I would replay past situations in my head so often and so many times, and would really replay the whole conversations just to feel the pain again. Or I don't know what I was hoping to gain from this, but it just doesn't help you. Even if you would alter the outcomes in your imagination, it doesn't change the past. And I think what we can learn from our past mistakes, or if other people hurt us, is that going forward, we have this experience. We can use it as a resource to learn from it, to make the better choice and just be and do better. Again, it doesn't mean that the past scenarios, whatever they may be in your life, are okay that they happened, but it's just time to let it go, to move forward. And as I said in the beginning, just to stay in the present moment, because that's really all we have. We have to stop telling ourselves that we can have either or. And that might be a little controversial. I think in our society, it's so often said that you are either the perfect mother or you're the entrepreneur. You are either in a loving relationship or you can choose to do whatever you want. I think we can find a balance in both, if you want both. Obviously, if you want to only go the career way and don't want the family part, that's totally okay as well. But if you want both ways, I think it's still possible. And it is a mindset change that we have to have. Because we think in boxes, we think of we're only allowed to have this and not that. Instead of just like, okay, let's see how I can combine it and still make it work. And just allowing yourself to experiment with the things you want to have. There is no wrong or being too greedy to want to have both, right? And I'm pretty sure you can find people on both spectrums where they might be like super successful and having a business of their own and still find time to have a family and have time to spend time with their kids. Never want to be put in a box. And if somebody tells me, you have a family now, you can't do fun things for yourself anymore, in my mind I go, oh, let me show you. Because I decide for my own whether I choose to do certain things or I don't. And you have the same liberty to do that. You can just choose what feels right for you. There is a way to do that. And this either or kind of makes me angry sometimes, because there is so much out there. It is existing. There is people doing the thing that you want to do and having the additional cherry on the top. Stop waiting for someone else to make your decisions. Talked about self-trust before, and I think the more you build your self-trust, the easier it will become to make decisions for yourself, where you don't second guess everything you want to do. Sometimes it's just like these seemingly so easy decisions that you're like, oh my God, but should I really? Maybe I should ask somebody else to help me. What would they do? Even though deep down you know your answer maybe anyway. I have a rule for myself that I like to come back to if I really have trouble making decisions. And that is, if it's not an immediate yes, then it's a no. And that goes especially for things where there's social outings. Sometimes I just said yes for the sake of being a people pleaser and just not disappointing other people. Ask other people what they would do in these scenarios. I think it's often that we're trying to not take full responsibility of our decision making. Even though in the end it's going to be your decision, but if it wouldn't work out, you at least have somebody else that said, oh, I would have done it too. You know what I mean? If you have enough self-trust within you, you can be sure that no matter what decision you make the decision for yourself, not for anybody else. And if you're aware of that every decision comes with a consequence, you know that beforehand, and therefore you can kind of weigh the scale a little bit if you are willing to do that or if you're not. And again, if it's not an immediate yes, it might be a no. If you don't know where to start with your tiny steps towards progress, I think you should watch this next. I'll see you soon.